Farmers and ranchers want to know why your electric fence keeps failing? This device could fix it. I checked out the AKO Smart Satellite Electric Fence Monitor. It's about a $200 gadget that's supposed to make fence monitoring easy. I tested it in my pasture for weeks. I faced some problems with the app, but learned why my fence wasn't working right. Stick around to see if it's worth your money, or if you should stick with a handheld tester, and how this device taught me and could teach you why your fences are failing. I unboxed the AKO Smart Satellite Electric Fence Monitor. It came in a sturdy box, and it has a gasket around where the battery door attaches with two Phillips screws. The box feels very solid. The instructions were in English, but there were a lot of other languages there too. Definitely not the primary language being English. The instructions were a tiny bit confusing. The main gist of the instructions I got was scan the QR code to download the app, and that there is a QR code on the back of the device that you scan to bind with the app. So I worked out how to set it up myself for the most part. The box did include a metal bracket, which confused me at first, but later, after I examined the pictures in the box, I discovered the metal bracket was actually for polytape, so you could attach the fence monitor directly to the polytape. The polytape being a flat kind of fence tape that you run electric through, so you would want that attached directly to it. You could obviously use the gator clip that they included as well, but they apparently have some people that want to set it up directly on the polytape. For new farmers, this fence monitor's simplicity would make it a top pick. It was easy to set up, and you don't really need to know too much other than that there's a ground and there is a power wire that you need to hook up somewhere onto your power. The monitor has two AA batteries already inside. I didn't know that, or didn't get that from the directions, and I opened it up and I saw that they were already installed. There really is no on-off switch on this thing. Apparently, I saw someplace you activate it by plugging the or attaching it to the fence, and it will detect it and then start transmitting up to the cloud. But I did end up checking the batteries. I took it off at two Phillips screws, easy. There's a good gasket there to prevent water from coming in. How you could have known that it was fine, there's a button on the front, so if you push the button, the light turns on. But it does seem like a well-built box and seems watertight, built for rain or snow. So I can see how this would do great sitting out in the pasture, way out in a remote area. As long as it has cell signal, it should work quite well. It has two mounting holes. You could use polytape with the bracket, or you could attach it directly to the post. I even used a wire in one of the holes and just hung it on my post. I think it uses the power well, so the batteries will last a long time. I think this because they shipped the batteries with the device already installed, and as I watched the app, I noticed that the battery power doesn't really go down very fast at all. So it does have the impact due to the power savings. It updates very slowly in the app, and I'll explain more about that later on in the video. The inverter needs a fence's electric shock to fully turn on. So if it won't connect to your phone, hook it to the fence first. It gets a weak signal indoors from what I saw, maybe even no signal. This could have been due to the power saving mode, but I do suspect that you would probably want to not mount it inside of a building like a shed. Instead, you probably want to mount it out in the field where the shock is weakest, not next to the energizer anyways. It uses a wireless signal like a phone, but there's no monthly fee. That's a big plus. Unlike other monitors, it's affordable, especially if you have multiple units. Imagine having to pay $4 or $5 a month on 5 different units. That would add up really fast. The con I see with this, there is full dependence on AKO as a company to continue to exist and support the app and their infrastructure. That could be a problem. I'll talk more about that later. At $200 though, this is a great tool for new farmers. I took the AKO monitor outside to test it at my fencer. It has 3 lights on the front that can light. They would show the shock's strength, the fence, so the shock being the cold voltage, which would mean the electrical power of the fence. They did light up after I pushed the button. I noticed that it would be flashing in conjunction with the fencer shocking as it ticked. I tried my app with it and I couldn't log in though. I use a custom email domain and it just gave me a weird error message when I tried to sign up for the account. I tried resetting my password and it said I had no account. That was quite annoying. I did end up using my Gmail account for this, but I don't normally like to do that, so I was a little unhappy with them of having such a basic thing to be able to send to another email domain, and they had that restricted. Said I did use my Gmail address to sign up with the app. After I did that, I did eventually get the confirmation email from them, and that worked. Connecting the monitor to the app with the QR code was very easy after that. I just scanned it in the app and it instantly connected. The app does let you share data with others, so you're not just restricted to you. So that's a good feature because on the farm you're likely to have multiple people there working with you. After fixing those issues I had with the email, I finally got the app set up, but I didn't have a fence to monitor anymore. Currently, we are switching our herd over to No Fence, which is a GPS system that controls livestock without real fences. So it's making our electric fences less needed. We still needed our fence for a horse pasture though. So when I set up the energizer for that pasture, I was able to test out the monitor on that. To install it, I just clipped the getter clip from the monitor right onto the hot wire and pushed the ground probe into the soil and hung it on a wire that I had there by my T-post. It took about an hour for the monitor to restart recording data. That was a letdown. It's not an instant. You can see the results right away. It's going to mean that it won't be good for fixing a fence live. As I went, I learned that this monitor is going to be better for tracking changes over time, and that's where the real lessons for new farmers will come in. More on that later on. Here are some screenshots that I took of the app's data. They showed the fence's power going up after I fixed some faults in the fence. Then we had a rainy day, and you can see here where it dropped down because the rain caused the wet grass, which was already touching the fence, to become more conductive. Since rain makes grass carry electricity better, it weakens the fence and the corresponding shock of the fence. So normally the fix for this is you have to go weed whack the fences and make the grass not be touching. So this showed that impact of the rain on the grass hurting the shock. And this reminds me of one of the early problems we had with electric fences when we were still learning how they work. We had a bunch of goats, and those goats got out on the rainy day, and we were so frustrated about why the shock was so bad. I finally figured it out. It wasn't that there was one fault on the fence. It was that there was thousands, millions blades of grass touching the fence, and they were wet now, and it dropped the shock significantly. So that's one of the things I see with this fence monitor system. It's going to be really good at teaching people what causes the shock in their fence to go down. You started off at a good 9,000 kilovolts, and it goes down to 2 or 3 and not doing anything, and the animals are getting out. The system will help you track and correlate data such as the weather or just the grass growing over time. You can watch where it's at and see that the grass, as it greens up and gets taller, is starting to impact it. Or perhaps you see a big drop and you're like, oh, there's something like a tree on the line, or maybe it's touching a T-post someplace. Maybe you see where there is a drop and then it comes back, and a drop and it comes back. That would tell you that perhaps a wire is touching and blowing in the wind. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. The AKO app only shows data for 1 hour, 4 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 1 week. As I was thinking about this, I realized this is a bit short. If you have a growing season of grass, it would take more than 12 hours to grow up and touch the fence. So it's going to be hard to see the trend lines over a long time range. You would see the rain on a 12-hour time span, and that would be fine. So I think this is one limitation of the app. I would really love to see them increase, and would likely be an easy feature change for them to make in the app. Just allow us to see the data out longer, perhaps even 12 months or 6 months or a few months out in some range like that. Of course, the time range isn't affected by instant problems, such as a tree falling on a fence. So there still is a lot of value here to be had, and you can learn what it's doing. And I'll talk more later about some of these data points and how it could help you potentially learn more about electric fences and how to keep them operating in good shape. The notification feature on the app was weak. You can't set a specific power level for alerts, meaning if your voltage is such and such a value. Now, my fence was low when I tested this, about 3,000 volts. It should have been 7,000 to 9,000 volts. I got no alerts. Even when I turned the fence off, I didn't see alerts in the app. It has a setting for an email address where you can get alerts to, but I didn't see an alert. Additionally, the app should have been sending notifications in app too, which may be my fault. Perhaps I turned off notifications when I installed the app. But I was disappointed with this. One aspect to this that makes me highly suspicious, there was no way to set the power level, and I think that's important because different fences would be different levels. My horses are okay at 3,000 volts. Yes, it would be better to be higher, but they're okay. If there are cows, no, you need higher. If you want them to stay, they've got to be higher. So different fences just innately will be set at different voltage levels, and different pastures just have different amounts of load, and you may not care to spend that time to get that load level down so that your shock will be higher. So I found that as a weakness that you can't set that threshold that you want to be alerted at beyond the fact you should have been alerted in the first place. A smart feature where you just look for sudden drops and give that to which turning the fence off should have produced the sudden drop, and I didn't see that there. So that was disappointing. I think they could do better in the app, and hopefully they can improve that. That should be an easy thing for them to change, to fix as time goes on. Just like the history graphs, they can easily make a feature to just have more history on that graph. The AKO app is simple. It's actually okay for a basic product. You don't want a lot of extra features that don't work. So I'm okay with them growing as a company and just getting a product out there. I do think the notifications should work though. If you got a feature in there, it should work. The graphs would be easy to improve. That should be a simple change of code, maybe a slight UI tweak, and it wouldn't be bad. Like I said, the longer ranges of time custom alerts would make this better, but the app is okay. Now at $200, around that price point, the AKO Smart Satellite Fence Monitor is a good deal compared to a handheld tester, which costs about $100, give or take, comparing the fact that you get smart features with it. The wireless features are nice, however, that does come with a risk. If AKO goes out of business, the app would stop working, and the monitor would be useless. There's really just one light on it that shows what the current fence shock is, and you have to push the button on the front for it to show up. So you pretty much need the app for this to function. That said, it's a great tool for finding out if your fence isn't working because of some issue, like a fallen tree on it. But does it really replace your handheld tester? The answer to does it replace your handheld tester? No. It's not fast enough for live testing. When I plugged it in for the first time, after I had it set up in the app, it was about an hour, give or take, before I saw any data. When I'm troubleshooting a faulty fence, I walk along the line, testing each spot as I go. I'm looking for the instant feedback. After I fix a spot, say if a wire is touching a piece of rebar or T-post, and I've fixed it, I need to know if I fixed the rest of the fence, is there other faults? And if I can't know right away, it's pretty worthless. The other thing it can't do for you is tell the direction of the fault. Some handheld testers can, and I think that feature makes it well worth it. And that's why I said earlier, probably a handheld tester runs you in the $100 range, because you can get cheaper ones for the $20 range, but they don't tell you the direction of the fault. And if you're troubleshooting a bad fence, you really need that direction. That's going to save you so much time. So my advice, you don't want this for testing your fences if you're fixing faults. This isn't the tool for the job. What does this do? It's great for tracking trends, and when they fix the notifications of your fence not working. You probably could log in once in a while and check it, but you're going to forget. So what I see the value in this right now is tracking trends. And why would you want to track trends? It's because you're going to learn from tracking those trends. You're going to learn how electric fences work. You're going to learn how your electric fence setup works. Here's the big lesson. The AKO Smart Satellites Fence Monitor true value isn't just about checking your fence. It's a learning tool to help new farmers and existing farmers. You can learn how your fence power changes due to weed growth, how rain makes grass more conductive for electricity and making your shock less, how your wires touching metal posts over time as they blow off the conductor impact your fence, how a tree falling on it could impact your fence, or just intermittent issues where sometimes it's hot and sometimes it's low. You'd be able to see that on the graph. So that knowledge is what's going to make this monitoring tool extra valuable, because you're going to learn a ton about electric fences. It will save you time by knowing how your fence is faulting and how to more quickly fix it, and what you maybe need to do in preventative maintenance. You will rack up hours of time savings by knowing more about your fence. As a direct monitor for your fence while you're working on it, this probably is not that useful. Uh, a handheld fence tester is cheaper, and a handheld fence tester will tell you the fault direction, and that's worth a lot. I talked earlier about not having an electric fence for a while. Do you even need a fence monitor? I have a upcoming video I'm going to do about the no fence system, and it's changing how livestock management works without using physical fences, without using electric fences. The system is almost obsolete, even though it's cutting edge in the fencing industry. Soon, it may not be needed at all.